Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our monthly webinar for Evolve Mechanical users. Today, we're going to be going over some of the changes that came with the 6.4.3 update. We'll talk a little bit about the Evolve Learning platform that we have coming out, and we'll be taking your questions. If at any time you have a question, please submit it through the Q&A function, and we will get to those at the end. This webinar is being recorded and we will forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find more webinar recordings and demos on our YouTube channel. So here is a quick introduction to your product and customer success teams. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alex Siebert, who has got a really important messaging on licensing for everyone today.
Awesome. Thanks, Marina. So I'm going to actually share my screen here real quick. So I've gone over this a couple of times in some previous webinars, but we have been seeing a steady stream of tickets come in about just removing licenses and adding new licenses. A lot of people are actually clicking these three dots over here on the right and just deleting the entire account. And then once they do that, they're like, oh, uh-oh, we're missing some accounts here as well. So just kind of wanted to walk you through how to unassign a license and then reassign that license. So the first thing that you're going to want to do to remove a license is go over to this ID column. There's going to be a drop down right here next to every user. To remove a license, all you're going to want to do is hover over the license that is shown. If there is no license here, then that means that this account is not licensed. And every user is going to have a drop down as well. But all you need to do is hover over this, a little trash can will appear. And then if you click that, it removes it and puts it back into your product pool for reassignment. And then to reassign, there's two ways that you can do this. The first is by coming over here, clicking the user, going up to the action dropdown, clicking add licenses, and then clicking on products or bundles, and then assigning it that way. Or you can come over here. Let me unclick myself. You can come over here and then assign a license this way. Click products or bundles, and then click the license that you want to assign. Always after you assign a license, just double check to make sure that that did stick. So that way, if you log into Revit and it's saying that you're unlicensed, always make sure that this is popping up here underneath the user that is trying to log into Revit and Evolve. But with that, that's it for license assignment and removing a license and re-adding it. And if you have any questions, run into any issues, please feel free to reach out. We're always here to help. And then with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Adam.
Thanks, Alex. All right, so I'm going to go through the 643 hotfix release. Not much to really show on it, but I'm just going to go over the release notes and hit some of the key points, and then talk about the LMS that we'll be setting out more information on, and then we'll jump into some feature training topic. So the hotfix, the big item for the hotfix will probably be the place hanger option. So what you'll see within the hanger placement feature under options, there's a checkbox here that'll say create unfiltered view for placement. So when you hover over this option, you'll see the tooltip. But basically, with the 6.4 update, when you run this feature and also a couple of other features, there will be a 3D view that gets generated in the background. You'll see it pop up and then it shuts off. Well, that had obvious performance impacts for very large models. So this is, and the purpose of that was to ensure that the clash detection that was being done, whether it's looking for structure or other elements, that we could ensure that those elements were visible. So checking that, having this on will create that view. Unchecking it just won't. So basically, if you are doing clash detection or looking for structure, and just ensure that those things are visible in your view, and you can uncheck this and everything will work as before. That would have been the big one for the hotfix. A couple of other small ones here. When using the location feature, if an element is detected that was previously assigned to another location, you'll get prompted and you get an option whether you want to reassign it or just keep it. That will allow you to manually override elements to specific locations. So for elements that fall within, two different locations and it's kind of hitting one or the other, this kind of will allow you to set it and then not override it when syncing. The last one here is for when creating packages. The 6.4 update only allowed you to create one elevation view, so that was just addressed. So now you can select all 4 elevation views if you want them. The rest of these are some customer reported bug fixes and then various things we found internally. Let me just look through these. I think the only one here, I guess there are 2 of them probably worth noting. The import points is now honoring the origin settings that are specified. So when you're within Point Manager, the settings here, if you're using the import points feature, it'll be imported relative to the settings within here. Previously, it was using internal origin on import. The last one here is the trapeze rod length. That one will be, let's see, I think I can give a quick example of this here. So in some conditions, if this rod was extended down through the bottom offset parameter, which is right down here, as this was extending down, you would see some instances where the top rod would extend down and get adjusted. So that calculation was addressed. Probably not a common adjustment, but it happens. So it came up. So that would be another fix. So other than that, again, just kind of you can access the release notes through the help docs under announcements and release notes. It's good to go through those before you update. The other thing to mention is the learning management system, the LMS system. So this is now live. You should be starting to receive or will receive information. Everybody who's a customer can sign up for this, and we will be continually posting new courses. But basically, this will host a series of videos, topical videos, and they're basically just training step-by-step. Short little snippets, based on the various topics that walk you through, a course type setting. So this will continually be added to throughout the year, and I'm sure just going forward with updates, and our features are always changing. Also, there have to double check how these will be set up. I think there's also, there will also be some documentation and potentially sample files depending on what the course is. So should be a very useful resource for everybody. So look out for that. Okay, so what I want to do is go through one of the panels here. I'm just going to go through the quick tools, just do a quick step-by-step, the picks and clicks of the various tools. The model I'm using is a training model that we're working on setting up, and it just provides some pre-set up conditions so you can walk through some of these tools with some other information. So this will be one of the things that will be soon accessible through the LMS and that type of thing. So getting right into it, as I go through this, if there's any questions on the quick tools as I'm going through them, please post them in the chat. And then if there's any other questions, I'm sure we'll have time at the end. So feel free to either post them or wait to the end and you can have time to post them then. So I will start with the copy elements tool. So that will be the upper left-hand button here. So the basic use case for this tool is to, I'm gonna have to jump over to Evolve Electrical. Actually, let me just fix this because it's worth noting. So when I hit copy elements, I'm not able to select this because this element is a conduit. By default, the Evolve selection config for mechanical, the quick tool section here, will not have conduit and conduit fittings checked. So for those who aren't aware, this selection, let me just close out of this. This selection config dialog here allows you to customize your selections for every feature that you see here. So if I wanted to be able to select conduit and conduit fittings, I can just check that in my element filter. And now when I select copy elements, I can select those elements. Hit finish. You'll get this dialog often when there's multiple open ends. So it's just going to say which end do you want to use. So I want to use that one, and then I can go ahead and copy. When you're copying across different types and sizes, you'll get prompted on what to do, whether it's inherit the size or add a transition at the connection. So I'll just hit inherit, so it just takes on the size of each one from there. The transition will be based on the routing preferences that gets created. So that's what it will default to. So you'd have to have a, some type of transition fitting specified. The next one will be the multi-trim. So this is going to be a big one for electrical as we're routing, obviously parallel conduits often. For piping, definitely would still come in handy. Probably not so much for ductwork, but multi-trim tool, basically when you start the tool, you're selecting one group of elements and then selecting the other perpendicular set of elements, hit finish, and it fills it in. It basically replaces the trim tool, which would normally do one at a time with Revit. And this just allows you to do a bulk edit the multi-trim. All right, next one is connect elements. This one and actually reconnect elements are very similar tools. So I'll go over this connect and then I'll jump over to reconnect. So connect is basically taking, one element from one location and connecting it to a connector. So regardless of where this thing is, you can grab one element and connect it to where you want to bring it to. So it's basically if the elements were pulled apart for whatever reason, moved away, modified, and you needed to bring something back, that's how it would work. Does the multi-trim only work with 90s? No, should work for any angle. Oh, hold on. Thought it worked for other angles. Maybe it doesn't. There we go. Yeah. In that condition, I was just too close to the connection. So I just had to pull it back. So if I undo it, if I do a native Revit trim, probably will pull it in. It's just not catching it on the multi-trim tool. So Just to correct that, I just kind of pulled it back a little bit to adjust that. But yeah, multi-trim will work with any angles. Good question. Okay, so the connect elements, again, just connecting one to another. The reconnect elements will be intended for typically connections that are broken within a a tight tolerance of them, of the two elements. So in this case, I have a connection here, but nothing on this side, connection here. Basically, all of those are broken off of this side. So what the reconnect elements allows you to do is set a tolerance to find these scenarios and reconnect them. So I have a couple scenarios here. And if you look at the tolerance, I will drop it down. So if I said a 1/16 of an inch, currently these are broken, I think, to an 1/8 or just shy of an 1/8. So if I set it below this tolerance and try to reconnect the tool, these elements, it's going to say nothing was found. So if I come back in here and set my tolerance to 1/8 inch and run the tool again, you'll see it connected 12 elements, and now these are all connected. So likewise, this is a 1 inch tolerance. So if I set my tolerance to max 1 inch, makes the connection. Now keep in mind, the intent, as I mentioned, is for tight connections. So if I were to bring something up far away, technically you can come in here, set this tolerance really high, and you could bring those in together like that. So when you drop this down, the reason this is 1 inch and smaller, because the intent of the tool is for tight broken connections where you could just do kind of large selections and fix those broken points. Obviously with larger tolerances, if there are larger areas that are broken, it's going to pull those together. So you may or may not want that to happen. So just consider that with your tolerance setting there. All right. Sticking to the, going back to the top here, we're going to jump to remove elements. This is a pretty straightforward tool. Basically, you're going to select, what are the 2 elements you're going to keep. It's going to delete everything in between. So if I pick 2 elbows, it'll just connect the 2 elbows. If I had a lot of broken sections here, I could certainly go from elbow to a straight and have it bring it down there. So basically the workflow is just pick the 2 elements you want to keep, and then everything gets deleted in between, and the connection is made from the point from the first one you're clicking on. So this one to there. So it's kind of like pick the element you want and where do you want it to go. The next button here is the optimize fitting. So I have a scenario down here. So this is going to be another quick tool that has a tolerance setting. This tolerance is going to define what will be allowable to be optimized. So if I have a very small tolerance and I start this tool, it's not going to let me select that because the length here is 5 inches. So if I go up to my tolerance and set it to 6 inches, oops, I can select that elbow, and then I can select the fitting. You'll notice I cannot select this fitting, and I can hit finish, and it will suck that piece in. So this one right here is 18 inches. So if I went to my tolerance and set it to 2 feet, can, again, select the elbow. This is now selectable and hit finish. So your tolerance will determine which straights are acceptable to be consumed. This is an ITM specific feature, not Revit family or an RFA tool. This is probably the only ITM specific tool that we have. And actually, I think this coupling tool here is actually the only RFA specific tool that we have. Something worth noting on this feature, if you hover over this button and hit your F1 key and go to the help doc, you'll notice that within the origin database, these are the current CID patterns that this feature will work with. I believe the easy way to know whether the feature is going to work with this, or if the elbow or fitting is going to work with this feature, is if you have these grip handles on the fitting. If you select the fitting and it does not have these grip handles, this feature is not going to work on that fitting. I believe that applies across the board, but the help article references very specific CID patterns based on the origin database. Okay, so I'm going to skip reconnect. We already went over that. So let's talk about disconnect elements. It's basically the opposite of reconnect. So I have a connection. I can select disconnect, and I can disconnect that elbow, and I can pull it out. So it's disconnected. Let me just undo that. I can disconnect the straight and pull that out. If I wanted to just disconnect this end, and let's just say, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just wanted to select the single connector. This feature does have a shift function. So you can hit shift and select. You'll see the only thing I can select now are individual connectors. This one's not going for some reason. Oh, it's probably disconnected. But I can select that. And now I can pull that out. Yeah, that was already disconnected. So real quick, one time, well, there. So I have a connector. I can specifically disconnect that one, hit escape, and now that comes off. So next set of tools are the alignment tools, or spacing, and the elevation tool. This will actually get changed in 7.0. This will consolidate to a single button, just like the electrical feature is. Currently mechanical, these are just two separate UIs. This doesn't apply, but they'll basically be that same UI coming in. But right now it's two separate tools. The spacing tool gives you your two options. So this is going to be your spacing between elements. So you either have an edge to edge spacing or a center to center spacing. So the edge to edge, first you can define your gap, which will be the space between the two elements. Then you have your rounding. So to show what this looks like is I can just put a dimension here as an example. And I'll put a center to center dimension. So I'll keep the rounding to 0 and I'll set my gap. I'll set it to 2 inches. I can't select conduit here. All right, I'm going to jump over to the electrical tool. It's the same thing. I don't know why I can't select conduit. So my edge to edge, again, set my gap to 2 inches. Select my element that's going to stay. Select the rest. It's okay if I select again that element and hit finish, and basically everything goes in towards the first element selected. So you'll see my 2-inch gap is set right there. It's hard to see. I'll zoom in here. And my center to center is a 32nd less than 4 inches. So this is where the rounding comes in, where it defines your center to center value. So if I set this to say anything at this point, because it'll just round up to an even 4, but with my rounding, I hit finish, and you'll see my gap is now 32nd higher, and I'm setting my overall to 4 inches. Equal spacing will be just that, an equal space, same picks and clicks, stationary element, then the rest, and you can set that. The elevation tool here is just to align whether it's to another element, which is a run, an edge of an object. So this could be a surface of a hanger or something like that. Or you can specify a specific reference plane if there was a reference plane available. And then you have the top and bottom alignment, which just will do just that kind of for piping, where you can hang from a top surface or a bottom surface. Okay, the last tool here will be the add remove unions. So this again is the only RFA specific feature. So basically, this is just a quick way to segment out RFA straights, where you can select the straight, select your direction. It follows the same placement process as the hanger placement. And just like you can add them, you can also delete them as well with the same process. So pretty straightforward tool to use. But again, it's an RFA specific tool. The minimum length here is the leftover length when it gets to the net last fitting. So you'll see right here, this will be an even, or it's actually just so happened to land at just higher than a foot. I assume this is 10 feet. Yeah, so this happened to be 10 feet even, and there was actually enough here. If I undo this and bring this down just a little more and run that tool again, you'll see this now is an even foot because it reduced this length to maintain a minimum spacing here, or a minimum length of 1 foot. Single placement. This also works for paralleled runs. I'm just doing it on a single element, so I could do it on a parallel set as well. I guess the last few tools to kind of quickly go over. The pick plane tool is basically the exact function as a set work plane. It basically just skips this dialog and jumps to this option. So if I go to a 3D view, let's see. So I could go to my pick plane and pick some surface of an item. You'll see my plane is actually visible there. Typically what this tool is used for is for annotating in 3D views. So if I wanted to pull a specific direction, I could change my plane and go to surface like that, and then dimension that way. So it's just a quick tool to basically change up your work planes for dimensioning. And then obviously the show plane, hide plane option here is just that. XYZ rotate, again, very simple tools. This is actually, you'll notice a lot of our fittings, or a lot of our families, are conduit fittings. There's kind of 2 reasons for that. One, they're conduit fittings because the content started with electrical, and as we just developed more RFA features, we put it into mechanical and kept the same category. But this specific category, unlike some others, allow you to rotate objects in basically any direction you want. So those are just quick little rotate tools, very useful for hotkeying because it comes up a lot when you're messing with RFAs to rotate them in position. The other rotate tool is an MEP rotate, which is designed for connected systems. So when you want to rotate a selected set of elements around another connection point here, the set angle determines the rotation angle. And basically, when you select the button, you highlight the elements that you want to rotate around. And when you hit finish, it'll rotate around that point, that connection point. And if I just click the button with the elements already selected, I can spin it. That would be counterclockwise. If I hold shift and select it, I can spin it around the other way. Again, if I set my angle to say 45, you do the same thing and do 45 increments. So again, quick, easy tools to use, but could be very helpful. The last one here will be the assign level. So with the assign level op function, you basically have three options here. You can copy the elements to another level, you can move them, or reassign them. Sorry, just noticing the question. Does the connector tool also work on welded pipe? It should work if the connector tool, I'm assuming it's the connect elements or disconnect elements, it should work on any ITM or RFA. So it's all these tools are content agnostic. For the they should be, other than, like I said, optimize fitting and the coupling tool. So if you find a scenario where it's not working, definitely let us know. Okay, so jumping back to the assign level utility here. So I'll just go through all three of these. So for a copy, it's kind of what level do you want to copy to? You could certainly specify an offset to use. And the workflow is just select the elements and hit finish, and they'll copy to the next level. The next option will be to move. So if I want to move to level 3, I can hit OK, select my elements, hit finish, and it just moved up to level 3. The last one will be reassigned. So this would be for scenarios where, let's say these are saying level 2, but they're actually on, or they're, let's just say they're on level 3, but they're assigned to level 2. Reassign just allows you to correct that to a specific level. And when you hit finish, they will be assigned to the proper level here. Yeah, that's the assigned level. So that kind of wraps up the quick tools. Again, when we don't have any updates to review, we'll try to keep hitting topics so that we can hopefully give everybody some tips and tricks, or at least show you some useful ways of utilizing these tools that you may not be aware of. So from here, I will pass this over to Jason, and he will cover another topic.
Thanks for that, Adam. So today I'm going to go over a little bit about annotations. So we're going to walk through these, kind of more specifically, some of the setup and some of the kind of workflow scenarios that we could go with. So in this annotation button group here, we've got 7 buttons here, and these are for tags, and they come with preloaded configurations. And so those are going to be your most common. But there's also the set of custom tags. So we'll look at the main ones first, and then we'll come and look at these custom user tags. So these come configured out of the box. They've already got settings. However, you can come and you can customize this. So right now I've got this grouped by tag type. So for each tag, so let's say the length tag, right? Or yeah, let's say the length tag. So for each for each category here, I've got different length tags. So what I can do here is a couple different things. So if I want to have a different tag for each category, I can do that. I can create another rule, set what category it's for and what tag type it is. And then when I go to tag that category with my length tag, that tag will come through. So in that way, I can use custom tags depending on the category of content that I'm tagging. You can set the file path here. So that can be any file path you want. Most of them will come through with well, all of them out of the box will have the install path tags. However, you can path that to wherever you'd like. You can also adjust the placement settings. So when it gets placed, depending on your workflow and how you want to annotate your sheets, you can change the placement of where it comes in, the right, left adjust, and the up, down adjust. So these are meant to, the idea is to get over 50% where you're not moving tags as often, right? So these will help offset it for you. And if you don't want any offset and you want to just write on top of the piece that you're tagging, you can leave this as 0, 0. There's an option as well to include a leader. And so if you're adding a new one of these, you'll just create a new row. So I'll make one down here. So this came in, let's say it's a size tag. I'm going to path to my tag. In this case, I'm just going to choose a random one. So once I do that, it detects the name and the family type is auto detect. So when we run this, if that tag's not loaded into the project, it'll get loaded in. I can set a service type for these tags as well to get a little more specific. So we see we've got that here with the duct. And then we'll just set our category over here. So this could, in theory, this can be anything. This doesn't necessarily have to be MEP fabrication parts, right? So we could set up these common tags for any category that we want to tag. All right, so that that covers the project annotation settings. That's your 7 common tags. And then we have the user custom tags. So if we go into this button here, on your machine, there may be none. However, you can set all these up. So these are kind of like tags that you would want to create a button for that don't fall into the kind of 7 common ones up there. This one's going to work very similarly. You'll give it a name. So we can give this like point number. And then the family name and type, I'm not going to worry about. I'm just going to browse to the file path. And so I'll set that. And when I click, it'll detect the family name and it'll set the family type to auto detect. If I want an image icon, so if I have a custom icon, I can set that. Otherwise, it'll just kind of have the generic looking tag icon. So you can path to an icon. And once you do, that icon will display over here in this column. We also have the options for our placement. There's a bunch of different places that you can choose from, depending on where you want that tag, right? So the goal is to move tags as little as possible. Or if you're lucky, you won't have to move it at all. So we have the placement setting here, and then we have the adjustment settings here. So you can adjust whether it'll come in farther to the left or right or farther up or down, as well as the leader. So that that really covers tags. There's really not too much to it. One of my favorite things about this though is, right, we've got these buttons, but we might be over here. We got to come over to Evolve Mechanical, come in and grab it. And sure, that might be better than, tagging something in Revit normally, and then going in and swapping it, to some other tag. It's still faster than that, but what for me, what really sets this tool apart is the fact that we can add shortcuts to these buttons. So if I go up to File in Revit and then Options, here in the user interface, we've got a customization here for keyboard shortcuts. Once we're in the shortcuts, it's a very long list. You can search. I'm a fan of going to the filter and doing, say, the Evolve Mechanical tab. And these are the shortcuts for all my Evolve Mechanical buttons. So there's a lot of buttons you can hotkey, but the ones we are looking for are here in tags. So they'll have this Evolve Mechanical annotation path. So we can hotkey all of those, and we can also hotkey all of our custom tags as well. So that can be a big time saver there. Having your most commonly used tags set up with a shortcut can make life annotating a little bit easier. All right, so with that, that covers annotations. Let's see, I'll throw it back over to you, Marina.
Great, thanks so much. And thank you to everyone who came to our webinar today. I hope that you found the information valuable. Please make sure to keep up with us on social media so you can see what other webinars and events we have upcoming. You can always find more demos and past webinars on the YouTube channel. As a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and we will send out the recording in an email. Please reach out to us at support@evolvemep.com if you have further questions and need any more help. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.